morning, noon, evening or night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the greatest of game series where we feature several replays highlighting the greatest moments. Starting off with Soparis in his mule on the map Ensk, and he goes for an interesting choice right here. He goes for the city, and by doing that, going to the one line, he catches out the T-34 2G and makes his battle rather a quick one. And pretty much almost right after that, he can now go comfortably further forward, since his platoon mate in the STRV S1 in the back can give him cover fire if enemies were to pick this avenue once again, allowing him to get 2 more shots the now surprised enemies in the middle of the map. However, now that the enemies know where he can poke again, Soparis needs to wait a bit. But luckily not for long, because the Yo tank makes a sacrificial crossing, making the XM shoot, allowing Soparis to get 2 more shots in. And later on, again, now against the IS-6. The Lynx now tries to cross, gets destroyed though, but gives Soparis the chance to fire again. 2 more shots. Now Soparis' platoon mate also mixes into the fray, getting quite hammered, but correctly focuses down the one shot first. Unfortunately, with more enemies now to the south now, he gets destroyed rather fast. Soparis did realize it a bit sooner and had already switched his attention towards the more pressing flank. However, he makes a first mistake by poking. He could have known where the Hori was locating, since he was able to kill his platoon mate. Despite of that, he tries to push the same location once again, gets a shot into the AMX, but wants to go for more damage on the Nergal instead of killing the AMX. However, by not killing the tank, he receives another shot, and we see that the HP difference is in the favor of the enemy team, so sacrificing HP for a bit more damage on this stage of the game is, well, not recommendable. The Hori gets spotted, he blind kills the EBR but cannot find a penetrating shot on the Hori. After that, he finally decides to get outside the shooting range of the Hori and outflanks the KV-3 in the process. Being a rather fast medium, he is quite able to quickly switch between targets, especially when it's considered the same part of the map. And after he kills the KV-3, he goes back to engage with the Hori. Luckily, the Hori hits the buildings, and Soparis is just in time to retreat back, go around and finish the T-25-2 off, leaving 1 more shot for the Hori. And to finish it off, he is already making a bit of a celebratory drive around before getting back and still having enough HP left to take the shot and finish off the last enemy tank, giving him the grand total of over 6,000 damage done. So a interesting replay to start off, going with the Bourrasque, or the mule in this case, towards the city area where normally you wouldn't go there with a medium tank, especially a lightly armored medium tank. But we see some great tricks being presented here, where it shows that a lightly armored medium tank can actually work in the city map, because the Bourrasque has some great peaking potential in the city areas as a support vehicle, dealing a lot of damage in short bursts, in which afterwards he can quickly retreat behind the buildings. In the process, he also takes into account when the enemies have fired or don't have their attention aimed at him, so it was safe to poke and not get fired back at, leaving him on a relative high amount of HP for most of the battle. Some oversight on getting shot by the Hori, while his platoon mate was destroyed at the same position by the same tank. Maybe a bit of communication could have helped here. And some damage madness, not going for the kill on the AMX, receiving more damage from the AMX, were only points of improvement. But overall, those points get wellly outdone the good decisions and great skills that we saw in this replay. Moving on with damage as the main theme, we are now watching Browking driving in his Death Star, the FV215B183. Of course, the damage of this thing, if it's getting a feature right here, is going to be pretty good, right? So let's just take it all in and enjoy the absolute carnage that is about to follow. At this stage, Browking is an absolute one-shot with only 9 HP left. But the amount of damage is, well, considerably low for a highlighted replay feature. So how much more damage can he still do? And with that low roll, it is pretty much game from here. Browking is it in time to reload once again before the last few enemies get destroyed. So in the end, the game had a lot of damage done, almost 10k. But there wasn't really much to talk about. Quite a regular replay. Next to some good positional choices, there wasn't really much of great moments next to those high damage hits. So how does this replay made it into this series? I mean, this is pretty much a replay that was overshadowed by another replay which was featured in the MBTT replay series. So this could have been a MBTT replay, right? Well, take a very close look at the names of most players. Most of them, well, including Browking at the time, have no clan. And most of them have an underscore splitting a forename with a surname. These are all bots. This replay is from a warming up round, where you get back online to World of Tanks from a very long break. However, despite being a bot game, the experience that was accumulated from this game is quite similar as a regular game against players. So I want to use this replay, next to some entertainment value of course, to highlight my discontent for the fact that you can get as much XP playing against bots as playing against real players. Of course, you don't have these warming up battles unless you are offline for World of Tanks for a while, but it still feels a bit cheaty against players who are slightly more active, but always have to play against actual players, not being long away enough to activate those warming up battles. But if you want to get some high experience, high damage game, just quit World of Tanks for a while and then come back. Then you can play your strongest or well-performing tank and get the best results against bots. Although I'm not sure if it all counts for your achievements or ratings or missions. I dearly hope not so. So I think that is also quite a limiting factor. But you can get some very high results from this being presented as a very strong replay, even though it is against bots. But we are finishing off with a regular game against actual players. Now watching Magical Stroopwafel in his Chevy camo playing on the map Fjords. And we also take a bit of a change in screen resolution because on this replay I've recorded on my newer, more wider screen. So Stroopwafel goes to the strong central position to spot the enemy lights going there, but doesn't spot any of them. It is the other Chevy on his team who spots the enemy light. Now Stroopwafel doesn't go and help him out, prompting to go the other route to spot for himself. Now this seems seemingly selfish, but it is the smarter option, because the enemy leopard there can receive backup at any moment. So in the meantime, Stroopwafel tries to spot for himself, going slightly further when he spots the KV-1, who is so blind that he doesn't spot him back. And now looking back, he sees the backup he had to deal with if he would have engaged the enemy Leopard there trying to help out his teammate. But no time to reflect on that, because now the KV-1 moves forward and Stroopwafel needs to fall back quickly and just keep himself inside the bushes in time not to get spotted, and even shuts down the KV-1 without getting spotted as well. After that, he positions himself to spot enemies from the north, starting off with the Stug 4. He makes once again sure to keep bushes between him and the enemy before firing. Getting the solid bushes, of course, wouldn't reduce the camo effect of those bushes. And against the Panzer IV-H, he does this so well that he is even able to kill him. And later on also with the Stug 4. So with the enemies dealt with right there, the M10 moves up and Stroopwafel is now happy to help, knowing his teammate there has a better chance to stay alive longer, not being left alone against multiple enemy tanks. He does take a couple of shots from the enemy M10, but gets rid of all the enemies on his flank eventually, alongside with his teammate in the M10. But before they continue further, Stroopwafel spots the Stug 3 that is pursuing them. So he alerts his friendly M10 to turn around, and together they quickly deal with the attempted flanking maneuver of the enemy. Great team communication right here, making use of that quick warning system. Now, safe to go further, Stroopwafel goes all the way back to hunt the arty down. Also in the engagement, after getting spotted, he gets to a slightly lower ground, so the arty has a harder time to fire back at him with the limited gun depression it has. Nice detail in that engagement to execute. Unfortunately, his teammate in the M10 alongside the M4 gets destroyed, wiping out all presence in the central part of the map, effectively cutting Stroopwafel off from the rest of his team. But he is trying to do his best while he's still there, trying to do the same trick with the bushes again against the other enemy M10. But he gets a bit surprised by the Churchill 1, who fought back and gets him spotted in the process. Now he correctly tries to make his way back towards his team now that his presence has been revealed. But he doesn't go all the way back. He stops for an ambush. And with some patience he gets results, because the M10 was indeed chasing him down. Once again, using bushes, he was able to fire without getting spotted, killing his pursuer once again with relative ease. Now, what would you do after killing the M10 in this very moment? Pause the video and leave a comment. I'm quite curious what different choices people would make right here. All I know for now is the choices that Magical Stroopwafel is going to make. And that is making his way all the way down through the south of the map, because he doesn't know where the Churchill is at the moment. So the best thing to do is help out his defending teammates with the 82 without getting surprised again by that Churchill. For that reason, he takes the long way around, since the Churchill is least likely to go towards this side of the map where no action is happening anymore. But then, on his way back towards his cap circle, he spots him. With some lucky timing right here next to bushes and solid cover. If he would be further forward, he might have been caught in the open by the Churchill. So we know the drill now. Using the bushes to stay hidden while firing, only going forward to spot the target again. But at some point the Churchill is close enough to spot him regardless. While repositioning, he noticed the 82 who he can conveniently kill. And with the Churchill being left on so little HP, it is pretty much a certain victory. So excellent use of the bush mechanics, actively using it as cover to get away from the KV-1, but especially to fire without getting spotted. The hard choice to sometimes not be present to support your teammate was also apparent, but we know later on the battle that Stroopwafel was indeed a good supportive teammate when he knew his partner had a higher chance of survival, or pretty much wasn't certainly going to die. The Chaffee in the start was pretty much doomed from the moment he engaged the leopard there after all. And finally, a great insight into the head of the enemy by acting like he was retreating, but setting up that ambush right there. In a very impressive game of over 2,500 damage being dealt in a tier 5 light tank, with 6 kills and 1,300 spotting damage, this was certainly one of the highest performance on this tier. And with that, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it, learned some new tricks, and I will see you next time. Laters!